Hey, hello, good afternoon. This is Kevin Ellis again, president of Local 2338 at the John J. Pershing VA Medical Center in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Hey, I'm going to continue to communicate with you guys because you need to hear the truth and nothing but the truth from the union. I'm going to continue to communicate with you like this because with the union not being in the building, the only voice that you're hearing throughout the daytime is from the agency. And you're being fed a one-way string of false and misleading information. So I will continue to do these videos. I will continue to send them to your personal email accounts. And I will continue to post them on my YouTube channel and posting them on the union's AFGE webpage. We will continue to do that. And that is what we're doing all over the country. I've encouraged other unions to also do the same thing, to continue to communicate with your people. Because if you allow the agency to control the only form of communication, then if you follow their line of communication, all of us are doomed. Okay. So that is not the case. And I will not sit by and allow that false narrative and that misleading information to continue to be pushed. Okay. All right. The reason why I am communicating with you tonight is I want you to know something. Okay. Um, there are reasons why the Department of Veteran Affairs and the White House cannot get rid of the unions and our contracts. In the early 1900s, before 1925, we did not have, when I say we, I mean workers in the workforce, not only federal employees, but also private sector employees, did not have statutory right, statutory protections. We didn't have collective bargaining rights or collective bargaining protections. They were simply not there. And as a result of that, employees were losing their lives. They were being chewed up and cut up in machinery on the job. They were being trapped in mines and being trapped in areas in which they were losing their lives. Children were permitted to work. Underage children were permitted to work, in some cases being forced to work. Okay, and there was simply no protections at all for the workforce. Employers were able to treat employees any way they wanted to. They could work them long hours without overtime. They could work them more than 40 hours a week, and they were not getting any benefits. A lot of jobs did not have a 401k in the 1900s. They were not giving them annual leave. They were not giving them sick leave. They were not giving them retirement. They were not giving them anything, no insurance. They were not giving employees anything at all, nothing. And employees were constantly complaining about the conditions of employment. They couldn't take care of their families. They couldn't provide medical care. They couldn't provide health protection. They had no retirement. They had nothing. And finally, and you will often hear me say this, and I say it loud, the only thing that America, corporate America, the White House, and members of Congress will react to is their greed and their profit. So in the 1900s, it had gotten so bad in the workforce that they began to strike. They went on a strike they did work stoppages, and that is the only thing that drew the employer and members of Congress and the White House's attention because work wasn't being done. Uh, Farms were not working. Uh, Farmers were not working. Produce was not being done. Uh, Protections, nothing was happening. The economy and the workers, their work economy, came to a screeching halt, and they were striking. And what got America's attention, what got Congress's attention, was that they had an inability to continue moving forward as if nothing happened. When food was not being produced, when products were not being processed, and work was stopping, people were not going to work, businesses was losing money, businesses were suffering because people had had enough. They finally got to the point that they said enough is enough. If the only way I can get your attention is to not show up at work, not come to work, I'm going to do that. And the large swaths of the country did that. They went on strike and they did work stoppages. As a result of that, Congress said, okay, wait a minute. Let's come up with a different plan. We know that you deserve to have a voice in the workplace. We know that you deserve to have a voice about your conditions of employment. We know that the conditions are not ideal. They need to be more safer for you, and you need to have some benefits. So Congress said, okay, what if we gave you the ability to collectively bargain for right conditions of employment, benefits? What if we agreed to do that? Would you go back to work? And the people said, yes. If I've got the ability to have a voice on my job, I got the ability to speak to the employer because in order to ensure that my family is taken care of, then yes, we can do that. But they went a step further, and they said, okay, we want these rights and protections grounded in statute. And this is the reason why federal law permits not only federal unions, but private sector unions. You might remember that in the first Trump administration, he went after the Federal Labor Relations Authority by terminating the general counsel, which is the head of the authority. Without the head of the authority being in place, the FLRA cannot process unfair labor practices filed by the union to make the employers do the right thing. Some of you might remember he fired this term, the second time around, he fired the head of MSPB. MSPB serves in the same way as the FLRA. You have to have a head. He went after EEOC, if I'm not mistaken. And without a head of EEOC, complaints cannot go very far. We know he fired the National Labor Relations Board, which is a board that governs the private sector unions. So he went after the heads of these agencies because he knows without the heads of the agencies, they can't do anything. For example, in 2017, we filed unfair labor practice charges. We had several of them filed. And one of them that we filed, and you might remember this, some of you might remember this, is the agency failed to give us office space that we needed to represent the union. Although we filed that charge in 2017 or 2018, the authority said, the Chicago region said, yes, your charge has merit to it, but without a general counsel, we can't do anything with it. That unfair labor practice charge sit there from 2018 to 2022 before it moved forward. It sit there for 4 years and had no movement. Why? Because the White House terminated the FLRA, the head of the FLRA. So there are some. I heard somebody mention on a town hall. I listened to the town hall last week by the agency, and I can tell you I was highly disappointed. And here are the reasons why. I heard Fabian repeat the lie from the White House that we have quote unquote fingerprints in national security. That's a lie. Outright, that is a 100% lie, period. The VA has been in existence for an extremely long time. And there's no way that we suddenly, today, in 2025, have anything to do with national security. And it goes to the credibility of someone who would speak in that manner and not tell the truth. We do not have any, none, zip, fingerprints in national security. We have employees that have gone on DIMPs before for 50 some years. We have responded to and helped responded to hurricanes, tornadoes, all of these areas throughout the country, floods. None of them have ever been connected with national security. Now, we know that's a lie because I heard Fabian say, well, the contract only exists for policemen, firefighters, and one other group. If that ain't the dumbest shit I've ever heard. You have a contract that covers 2 or 3 groups of people, but not the other 100 groups of people. Is that not the textbook definition of discrimination? Disparate treatment? That's how we know that our contracts are still valid contracts. So I'm just encouraging you that keep supporting the union for a number of reasons. One, we're still fighting for employees. Our national union, the National VA Council, filed a new grievance on this past Friday, September the 5th, against the Department of Veteran Affairs. And how could they file that grievance? Because we know we still have a contract, period. And we will continue to act as though we have a contract. We will continue to represent employees, okay? We will continue that. Now, the next thing I want you to understand is that this White House and Republican Party is trying to return the federal unions, the private sector unions, and the general public back to the 1900s, before Congress gave all of us statutory protections. Not only do federal unions have statutory protections, but the private sector has benefited from the work of the unions. They benefited because they were capped at a 40-hour work week. Anything above 8 hours a day or 40 hours a week was overtime. They benefited from it because they were given they earned annual leave. They earned sick leave. They earned, retirement plans, 401ks. And this is important for you to know because this is not just a public sector union fight. This is a fight for your friends who don't work for the federal government, your families who don't work for the federal government, for your neighbors who don't work for the federal government, people in your neighborhood who don't work for the federal government. All of us are in the same fight together. And it's important for all of us to realize this is not just about the public sector unions. This is about every single American worker in the country. You are watching this White House destroy hundreds of thousands of lives right before your eyes. You watched last week as for the first time since COVID, only 22,000 jobs were created. And I'm sorry, that is not a healthy economy. That's not a healthy workforce. The unemployment rate went up. Job creations have gone way down. And you and I are fixing to pay higher amounts of taxes because of tariffs and people not working. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. So this threat from the White House and the Republican Party and Congress is a threat to all of us in the middle class and the lower class. It is a direct threat to your way of living. It is time for you to have a conversation with your family members, your friends, your neighbors in your neighborhood, and inform them that yes, you're watching the economy go in the wrong direction. You're watching the White House attack not only public sector unions, but private sector unions. And all of us stand to lose the same benefits. Okay? All of us. So it's time for you, and we're asking you to start having these conversations with your family. Have these conversations with your children, your neighbors, your friends in your neighborhood, because we all are dealing with the same thing. It's not just one part of the country, it's every part of the country, okay? Now, I told you earlier that we are still representing employees. I'm writing you tonight because I just completed some work on a post-hearing brief that's due very soon. So we're still representing our members. We're still writing post-hearing briefs. We're still following up, reviewing transcripts. We're still going over exhibits. There are a whole lot more ways to fight for employees than just through the FLRA or through the contract. We fight in district court. We have some of our members right now. We've got about, 10 to 12 people with cases right now in district court. So there are a whole lot of different ways to hold the agency accountable for what they do. Now, I also heard on the town hall, I heard the director say they won't recognize an arbitrator's decision. To be honest with you, that's nothing new for the John J. Pershing VA Medical Center. That's the reason why we had more unfair labor practice charges as the third smallest VA in the country than the top 10 VAs nationwide. Even when they lost arbitrations, they did not want to honor them. And I had a list of about 15 of them they didn't want to honor, and we had to make them honor them. Some of them we filed through FLRA. Some of them we were fixing to file to district court, and they complied. So it's nothing new to hear Fabian, on behalf of the agency, say they won't recognize arbitrator rulings. They can do that if they choose to, and it's to their own demise. Okay, so they can choose to ignore it and bury their head in the sand, and try to claim that they're not going to honor anything or follow anything, we know at the end of the day, we are going to prevail. And if they choose to disengage in that process, they do it on their own. Okay. They do that on their own. Okay. We're not going to disengage from it. We're going to stay engaged. Matter of fact, we engage now, communicating with arbitrators across the country about cases that we have coming up. And none of them arbitrations have been canceled and dismissed. Why? Because the arbitrators realize the agency refusing to participate is at the agency's own demise. Okay, so period. We are continuing to move forward, and we are still representing our members. I told you last week, or maybe a week ago, that our national union was filing an appeal back to the Ninth Circuit. That appeal is due within 7 days. Both parties are required to have the appeal filed by the 15th of September. That's 1 week from now. Okay, so we are fully hoping and expecting that the appeals court will say to the VA, you lied to us. You told us you were not going to touch the contracts. You're going to wait until the process works its way out, and you lied to us. And for that reason, we're going to re-implement the injunction. That's what we hope is going to happen. Now, the other reason I want to talk to you is, why does the VA so desperately want people to not be part of the union? Well, here's some of the reasons why. And here's the reason why the secretary and the White House said the unions are a problem and in the way. You might remember over a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago, close to a year and a half, 2 years ago, the Heirs Commission was out. You remember they were going to close a lot of VAs, and they were going to shut down some VAs across the country and shut down some programs. And you might recall that our facility was part of that process as well, that we were going to lose services at our hospital. And when you start losing services at your hospital, it's not too much longer that doors will be closing. Okay. So here's the reason why that did not happen. Members called Congress. Our family members called Congress. We had friends in the private sector calling Congress on our behalf. They rallied with us, and they stood shoulder to shoulder with us, explaining why the Heirs Commission report should be defeated. That report was not defeated only because the union was complaining. We had stakeholders, VFW, DAV, AMVETS, American Legion, private sector companies, okay, Chamber of Commerce, all over the country. Businesses were complaining along with us that would be a bad idea for our communities and for our economies. And for that reason, the Heirs Commission was shut down. It was because we all worked together collectively, not just the union, but we worked with our families, our friends, and our communities. We contacted our congressmen. We worked together as a whole to defeat that across the country. That's the reason why the Heirs Commission was a failure. You might remember here a little while back this year, they were trying to change our retirement plan from a high 3 to a high 5. Okay? The reason why that failed is because the unions, along with our families, our friends, the other stakeholders in the communities, all complained about that because it was going to have an impact on everybody. And because we all collectively did our part, we rallied, we made phone calls, some of us phone banked, some of us wrote letters to our congressmen, had our family members write letters, and friends. They left the retirement alone. That didn't happen because of the union alone. It happened because we worked collectively with other stakeholders. This is the reason why the White House and the VA does not want the unions around because we have the ability to collaborate and partner with people across the country in the private sector that will agree with us that what they're trying to do is wrong. That's the reason why they do not want unions in the workplace, is because we can collaborate and work together with people within the private sector to help achieve a goal. And what's that goal? Maintain and protect your rights to collective bargaining, protect your retirement, protect your families, protect your insurance, your benefits. The agency would love nothing more than to have you come to work, breathe bad air, leave with headaches, leave sick, leave injured, and not care. I know this for a fact because it's happening at the John J. Pershing VA Medical Center. They wish that the lab issue would have never come to light. They knew about the lab issue in 2012 and 2013. We kept complaining about it. We pushed the issue in 2019, and as a result of that, hundreds of thousands of dollars are being paid out to employees because the agency failed to remedy the bad air quality. Same way at the West Plains CBOC. People were harmed, and they've been given damages. The agency has appealed it. However, we won the arbitrations. Okay, so these are some of the reasons why they do not want a union in the workplace. For example, the COVID leave. The COVID leave that we just got back for our employees are being reimbursed COVID leave. The agency stole from them because of the union. And I heard Graspy say on the town hall that they was waiting on FSC, the Finance Service Center. Listen, let me tell you something. That's nothing but a cop-out, okay? It does not take FSC that long to process annual leave or sick leave that's going to be restored and removing of AWOLs. That happens at the agency. That happens at the agency. The agency does not have to wait for anybody to make you guys whole. They do not. That's a lie that they've been telling now for a long time. How do I know it's a lie? Because they can pick up the telephone and call them and in 2 weeks have it done. How do I know that? Because when we was representing employees at our hospital who have been returned back to work by arbitrators, the agency kept making a claim, well, we got to wait on DFAS and we got to wait on FSC. They don't work they're not part of the VA, so we got to wait on them. We got to wait on this. One of the members at Cadre picked up the telephone, called them, called DFAS, called FSC, and said, hey, here's what's happening. Can we get this taken care of within 2 weeks? And they said, yes, that's not a problem. We just didn't know. And all it took was a phone call. All it took. And employees were paid hundreds of thousands of dollars and given hundreds of hours of annual leave and sick leave and benefits within about a 2-week period. Why? Because someone picked up the telephone and called. And that's all it took. So when they tell you they got to wait on everybody and they're not part of the VA, that's nothing more than a talking point, okay? Now, the other thing I want you to know is that I'm extremely disappointed, and I've been disappointed in Fabian ever since he came here. My first meeting with him was a different type of meeting than I had with Mr. James Warren. Fabian said to me, he says, Kevin, he says, I'm the interim director here. He says, but I have to follow whatever general counsel tells me to do. Whether I know it's right or whether it's wrong, I have to do what they tell me or I'm not protected. when he told me that during our first meeting, I thought to myself, so you're nothing but a talking head. Because if you know right from wrong and you still do wrong because general counsel told you to, that doesn't make you free of responsibility because you know better. And from that point forward, when I would hear him speak and talk, I'm asking myself, who's really talking? Is it Fabian or the general counsel? That's not what I heard from Mr. James Warren. I heard Mr. Warren say, I am the interim director here, and I make decisions about what happened here as the interim director. Not OGC, not HR. He makes the decision. And it was because he had that fairness about him, Mr. Warren, that he agreed with the union that we could work together. He's the reason why we got the settlement agreements that we did. And the agreements that we have gotten completed was under Mr. Warren, because Mr. Warren knew right from wrong. And Mr. Warren also understood that one of the biggest stakeholders at the hospital was the employee. That's why he said, if you see something, say something. If something's not right, it's wrong, we're going to make it right. We're going to take care of the employee. That's what we're here to do. Happy employees provide great customer service. When employees are happy, they are free to give the best care they can. They don't have to worry and stress. That's what made us working with Mr. Warren so great. Because Mr. Warren told us, not only verbally, but put into action, that he cared about employees and doing the right thing. I cannot say the same thing yet about Fabian. Based upon that conversation he had with me, by saying that whatever general counsel tells him to do is what he has to do, whether it's right or wrong. That was a little disturbing to me. So when I heard the town hall meetings last week, because I was gone, I was away on vacation. When I heard the town calls, I was highly, highly, highly disappointed. Extremely disappointed. Okay? But I want to make that for you. I want you to know that the union is still fighting for people. We're still filing grievances. We've got some we're working on right now. We're still working on arbitration, still working on post-hearing briefs, still doing the same thing we need to do. People, some of you have been awarded money and back pay. You haven't got it yet. We're not done representing you. We're going to still get it, okay? Some of you are off the COVID leave, annual leave and sick leave. We're not done representing you. We're going to keep fighting for that. Some of you have arbitration that are ready to go to arbitration now. Some of them may be delayed by a few weeks or so. Some of them may be delayed, but trust me, when I say this to you, believe me, justice delayed is not justice denied. Justice delayed is not justice denied. Keep that in mind, okay? They may claim they won't follow this. They may claim they won't do this. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, they will comply, okay? We got your back. Keep your head up. Stay in the union. Talk to your friends. Talk to your families. Because without the union, you have no voice. You have no support. You are the only voice. With the union is the only voice that we have. VAEA can't help you. BBE can't help you. FEE can't help you. It's AFGE. If it's not AFGE, they don't have a voice. They are agreeing with the agency, more likely to sell you out. They don't represent any of you and your rights through Congress, through litigation, or no other means. They can't do it. All right. Only the union can do that. We're still doing it. We're still in the fight, and we're still filing and going to arbitrations to represent the bargaining unit employees. Now, that's important because I want to bring this up real quick, and I'll be done. Back in March and April, you kept hearing about RIF, RIF, RIF. Then you heard the VA come back and say, hey, well, it's not going to be a RIF. After all, we got the people, we're good to go. We're going to do it through attrition. Last week, we heard, well, there's going to be an organizational cap. There's going to be some changes. In other words, we're going to try to do a RIF just through the back door without calling it a RIF. This is why I tell people, stay with your union, keep fighting with your union, and believe half of what you see and none of what you hear from the agency, okay? Because they're still trying to downsize and get rid of employees. I don't care what they call it. They can call it reorganization. They can call it restructuring. Whatever they want to call it, it's the same damn thing. If you want to continue to protect your job and protect your families, tell your friends on the job who are not paying dues to the union to get back in there and pay dues to the union, because it's through them lawsuits and them arbitrations that we protect the workforce. That's the only way we protect you and your family's interests is through the union. No other way. Trust me, there is no other way that protection will ever going to happen. Okay? God bless you. And you hear from me again probably this upcoming week. We have a union meeting on Thursday. I encourage many of you, if you can attend it by Zoom, be there. September 11th at 5 p.m. electronically by Zoom is the next union meeting. God bless you and have a good evening.